Welcome to our harmonic color schemes presentation. I'm going to go over color and color theory and color schemes pretty briefly. I'll try to keep it short so that you can get to the activity. This is just going to be review for most of you, just so I can go over how to use the color wheel and then you can get to the activity. So here we go. So we have primary colors and secondary colors. Primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. Those three can be mixed to make any of the other 9 colors on the color wheel. We have orange, green, and violet for our secondary colors. You mix red and yellow to make orange. You mix yellow and blue to make green. You mix red and blue to make violet. Tertiary, or also called intermediate colors, are going to be your yellow-orange, red-violet, blue-green, and yellow-green. So we also mix a primary and a secondary to get those. It's 50-50. It's right in the name. So if you're going to make yellow-orange, you mix orange first and you add yellow to it. So it's 50-50 orange, 50-50 yellow. And you guys have been mixing color all week, so this is not something that's new to you. You've all been kind of experimenting and mixing color the whole time so far this week and last week, excuse me. So colorfulness, hue is just the word for color. So the name of a hue that we see here is red. Saturation is how bright the color is and how close it is to the original hue. Saturation, as it gets less saturated, it's going to get closer to achromatic, so it'll be like draining the color. You guys have seen that when you edit a photo where it takes the saturation down, it just kind of drains the color from it. Anything that gets farther away from the original hue is going to be less saturated. And then value, which you guys have been working on all this time, is tints, or when you add white to a hue. Shades is when you add black to a hue, and tones is when you add gray to a hue. Temperature. Warm colors are the colors that are closer to red on the color wheel and have a feel, like if you were going to touch it, that it would feel warm or hot. Cold colors are going to be closer to blue, and they're also going to feel psychologically like they would be cold if you touch them. Proportion and intensity. This is important. When you are looking at the artworks today, what I want you to think about are the proportions of the hues to one another. So in this painting, for example, we have like 70% blue. So blue would definitely be one of the colors in the color scheme. And then you're going to have some blue-green and then some green. White and black are not going to count. So we have like tints of green, probably, I would say, in here, because they add a lot of white. It's just really, really light. But we do see some specks of red. Now, because proportionally it's so low, I wouldn't even count that in the color scheme. It's just part of the palette. So it's going to be an analogous color scheme. Dominant colors are colors that stand out. Usually it's going to be something really bright and intense, like your primary colors and then secondary colors after that. When you have really saturated color, it's going to stand out compared to any color that's got less saturation. So these are super bright. See, red, yellow, blue, they really stand out. Recessive colors are going to be less intense. They're going to probably be less saturated or changed in some way, like they say toned down. That's because they have like some gray in them, perhaps. They're going to fade into the background. So you have your recessive colors as well. So something like this, where we have these really bright red boats, the boats move forward and everything else kind of recedes. So someplace like graphic design or illustration or any place marketing where they want to sell you something, they're going to want to get your attention. So they're going to be mindful of how color works psychologically. And something like this, maybe you would see in a brochure where they want you to rent the kayaks at this resort. Kind of just an example. So color schemes. Monochromatic is not on this color wheel. So it's just one hue and then all of the tints, shades, and tones of that hue in a singular painting. So something like this. This is Action Painting by Mark Tansey. All of his artworks are monochromatic or achromatic. So he definitely uses just the one color in his palettes and then makes variation paintings after that. So this is a bunch of people painting a rocket launch, and it's supposed to be kind of funny because action painting is referring to like Jackson Pollock, like splattering paint. And so it's kind of poking fun at the art world that these men are actually painting action. So it's a little silly. Complementary color schemes are opposite on the color wheel, and we do have complementary on the color wheel that you're being provided. So they're just opposite on the color wheel. So if you, let's say we see a work of art, I'm going to go to the work of art actually that I have here, and we definitely see blue. It's got blue here, and it's got orange on the other side. If I point for sure to blue, orange should be on the opposite side. There you go, we got our color scheme figured out. Analogous is 3 neighbors on the color wheel, or 4 sometimes. They have to be in a row. Typically it's from a primary to a secondary. So we have this work of art, and think again back to the proportions. We have blue for sure. So we're gonna go to blue. We can point everything to blue on our color wheel. We already were at blue. Okay. The problem is analogous is on the opposite side of this triangle here at the bottom. This triangle is a dual purpose triangle. It has analogous at the bottom, and it has split complementary. Oh no. It's 4:30. It has split complementary on either, on all 3 points. So this one, and the top would be split complementary. So analogous is at the bottom. So if I point to blue and none of the other colors that are being pointed to are in my painting that I'm looking at, then it's likely that analogous is going to be the one. So I'm going to move it and put at least one of the points on blue. So I'm going to put blue, blue violet, and blue green. It's actually 4 in a row. It's got green, blue, and a little bit of blue violet. So it's going to be analogous. Okay, that's how we figure that out. Triadic is the largest triangle. It's got these 3 points. The most common triadic are going to be red, yellow, blue. And then the next most common is the secondary colors, violet, orange, and green. So a painting like this, you're going to have to think backwards. So I'm going to point everything to red. So I'm going to point everything to red because pink comes from red. So when you see a painting like this, you're going to point everything to one color as a group. And lo and behold, it has red, yellow, and blue on all corners of this triangle. Split complementary is that dual use triangle that I was talking about during analogous. So it's going to be the 3 corners of that. Something like this is a little bit harder because it has colors that aren't as obvious. So it's got blue and it's got green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of my corners on, let's say, blue. Now, it has blue and it has green. So if I put everything to blue, it's not touching blue and green, wherever that is, over here, green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it around. So I'm going to make it touch blue, and I'm going to make it touch green. So the points on the analogous that say 1 and 3 are going to be the opposite. And then is red, orange the opposite? It is. So red, orange, blue, and green are all being used. Brown is just a shade of orange. So some kind of orange. So a yellow orange, orange, or a red orange is going to turn brown. It just depends. So we also have like the red orange in the Dunkin' Donuts stuff over here. Green is here. Blue is a little bit more obvious. Okay. Here's another example. So you could go to yellow orange and red orange. and then blue is going to be the opposite. So you just have to play with this a little bit to find your answer, but this tool is really effective at figuring it out. These color schemes are just for your knowledge. They're not going to be on the packet or any test I were to give you. Double complementary is when two complementary color schemes are used in the same painting. So you might have like red and green, orange and blue. Analogous complementary is where you have the complement and then the 2 or 3 colors on the opposite side as an analogous color scheme plus the complement. So we have something like this. You could use your color wheel to spin it to red, and then the answer on the opposite side is, of course, green. I'm going to show you the worksheet that you're going to be using to fill out in your groups. So every packet that you get is going to have artworks. It says, what hues can we identify? So let's just go and look at A, just so I can show you. So A is the easy one, so I don't mind doing it with you. So the only hue I can identify in A is green. There are tints, tones, and shades of green, but it's just green. So here I would put green. Are there tints or shades in this work of art? Yes. And then they come from green. Okay. And then what color scheme is being used? It's the only one that is not on your color wheel, and it's monochromatic. And then what elements or principles of design can you identify and where? There is a sign right up on the cabinet with the elements and principles. I want you to put something other than color, because color is in all of them. So if you could please do that. We know that there's color in all of them. And then leave correct or incorrect blank. These are the only color schemes that are going to be options in all of the works of art. Now, when you have gone through as many as you can get through as a group, then you're going to answer these 2 questions before you hand it in at the end of the period. So at this time, you can go up to the sub and get the packet that has all of the artworks. They look like this. There's going to be a bunch of them, 9 of them actually. And then you're going to fill this out, and then by the end of the period, you will just go ahead and turn that in. All right, good luck.